Chen Mei Lin opened her eyes to a white ceiling and the sound of a machine beeping softly beside her. She did not move right away. She lay still and let the information come slowly, the way you let cold water run over your hands before you decide whether it is too cold. The ceiling was familiar. The smell of the room, antiseptic, faint bleach, something floral from a vase she could not yet see, was familiar too. The particular quality of the light coming through the window told her it was late afternoon, sometime in autumn. She turned her head. A clock on the wall. A date on a whiteboard below it, written in blue marker by a nurse who had neat handwriting. She read the date 3 times. Then she closed her eyes again and breathed very carefully, the way her doctor had once taught her to breathe when something became too large to hold all at once. She had died. She knew she had died. She remembered the rain on the windshield, the way the road had looked wrong for a moment before the car left it, the sound the guardrail made. She remembered thinking, in the last second before everything stopped, that she should have eaten breakfast that morning, that it was a strange final thought to have, that she was sorry she had not said more things to more people while there had still been time. That had been a Tuesday in November. She had been 46 years old. The date on the whiteboard said she was 34. 12 years earlier. The year her father had been dead for 3 months and the grief was still new enough to be disorienting, the year she had not yet signed the papers that transferred co-ownership of his company to her husband, the year Lin Jia was still bringing her tea in the mornings and asking about her sleep. She lay in the hospital bed and did not cry. She added up what she knew. She was quiet for a long time. A nurse came in and asked how she was feeling and she said fine, a little tired, thank you. The nurse checked the monitor and wrote something on a clipboard and left. Mei Lin turned back to the window. Outside, the city moved the way it always moved, without knowing her, without caring what had just happened to her, without any record of the life she had already lived and lost inside it. Good, she thought. Good. She had been married to Lin Jia for 4 years the first time around before she understood what he was. Not a cruel man, exactly. Not the kind of man who raised his voice or made threats. He was patient. That was the thing. He had the kind of patience that looks, from the outside, like devotion, the patience of a man who plans, who waits, who arranges things so slowly that no single arrangement ever looks like what it is. He had spent 2 years building her trust before they married. He had waited 3 more before introducing his mother, Fang Liru, into the household, first for visits, then for weeks at a time, then for good, until the apartment that had belonged to Mei Lin's father had Fang Liru's vases in it and her furniture and her preferred brand of rice in the kitchen cabinet. Then had come the company. Her father's company. He had built it from nothing in the 1980s, importing pharmaceutical equipment into a market that needed it, and by the time he died it was worth more than Mei Lin had ever needed to count. She had been its sole heir. She had been its director. She had known every supplier, every contract, every storage arrangement in every city the company operated in, because her father had made sure she knew. He used to bring her to meetings when she was 12 years old. He used to say, watch how a person handles disagreement, that is when you learn who they really are. She had watched Lin Jia handle disagreement. She had thought, for a long time, that she was watching a good man. It took him 6 years after the marriage to restructure the company's board. It took him 2 more to move the financial accounts into formats that required his signature alongside hers. He used lawyers she had not chosen. He used documents she had signed during periods of stress, once during her mother's illness, once during a company audit that had turned out to be manufactured by a partner Lin Jia had quietly removed 6 months later. His sister, Xiaomei, filed the paperwork. His brother handled the investment accounts. Lin Jia handled Mei Lin. That had been the arrangement, though she had not known it had a name until the week he asked for a divorce and explained it to her, calmly, the way you explain something to a person you have already decided cannot do anything about it. He was right. By then, she could not. She had been 51% of nothing by the time she understood what had happened. She had gone to 3 lawyers, 2 of whom suggested settlement amounts that told her exactly how hopeless they thought her case was. She had taken a job. She had learned to keep a very small life very carefully, the way you carry something fragile across a long distance. And then she had driven into rain on a Tuesday in November and the road had looked wrong and she had not made it to the other side. She was 34 now. Her father had been dead for 3 months. Lin Jia was still bringing her tea. She knew every date, every document, every signature she should not give. She started with the lawyers. Not the ones her husband knew. Not the ones whose offices were in the same building as his accountant, not the ones who appeared at the same dinner tables. She found a woman in Singapore named Priya Nair, a corporate attorney whose name she had read once in a business magazine article that Lin Jia had left on the kitchen table, circled in pen, in the context of a deal he admired. Mei Lin had never forgotten the name. She had never known, in her first life, that she would need it. She called the office on a Wednesday morning while Lin Jia was at work. She explained what she needed: a restructuring of her holdings in her father's company, placing the controlling interest into a separate vehicle, in her name only, registered in a jurisdiction she would specify. She said she would send the relevant documents by courier. She asked whether this could be done quietly. Priya Nair said, "Quietly is how we do everything." Over the next 14 months, Mei Lin made 18 wire transfers. Each one was small enough to look like routine financial management. Each one moved money from one place to another place that her husband's family had not thought to look, because they had not thought Mei Lin was capable of choosing where to look. She moved her personal savings, the inheritance her father had kept in a private account, the one he had made her memorize the number for when she was 22, telling her it was for emergencies, for the day she needed to start over, through a bank account in Portugal, into a trust registered in the Cayman Islands, into a real estate fund in Singapore that paid quarterly returns she reinvested without telling anyone. She went to the family dinners. She let Fong Liru correct her soup. She let Xiaomei take credit for a supplier relationship that Mei Lin had privately arranged through a contact she had kept from her father's address book. She kept her expression the way they expected it, pleasant, slightly distracted, not quite present. They saw what they had always seen. A woman who was easy to manage. They kept planning accordingly. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. She was in Lisbon. Her first business trip in her own name, for her own reasons, a meeting with a fund manager who had agreed to double her offshore position, which at this point was substantial enough that the doubling was not a small thing. She was sitting in a cafe near the waterfront, drinking an espresso that was very good, watching the light move across the river in the way that light does in Lisbon in the early spring, flat and golden and very clean. Her phone showed Lin Jia's name. She knew this call. She knew it the way you know the particular sound of a door about to be opened by someone you have been expecting and hoping would not come. In her first life, this had been the call where he told her the company was in a liquidity crisis, cash flow problem, he said, temporary, a gap between receivables and obligations, nothing structural. He had needed her to authorize an emergency transfer. He had been crying. She had never heard him cry before, and it had made her feel, very briefly, that she had been wrong about the last several years, that this was a real man in a real difficulty, that love, or what she had thought was love, was still operating somewhere beneath the surface of things. She had authorized the transfer within the hour. She had learned, 14 months later, that the crisis had been manufactured. The transfer had completed the process of removing her from any meaningful ownership of her father's company. She picked up the phone now. She listened to 3 sentences. His voice did everything her memory said it would. There was the tremor. There was the intimacy, the way he said her name as if it was something he was protecting, as if the saying of it was an act of care. She said, "I'm sorry, the connection is bad." She ended the call. She sat with the phone face down on the cafe table. The espresso was very good. Outside, the light on the Tagus was doing something remarkable with the afternoon, the way the water held the color of the sky and gave it back slightly changed. A boat moved through the frame of the window and disappeared. She finished her espresso. She checked the time. Her meeting was in 40 minutes. She put the phone in her bag and went to wash her hands. Without her capital, the manufactured liquidity crisis became a real one. Lin Jia's family had built a financial structure over many years that assumed Mei Lin's assets as its foundation. They had borrowed against projected joint holdings. They had committed to acquisitions that were backed by accounts they did not yet legally control, because controlling those accounts had always been one step away, one more document, one more signature. They had been spending money they intended to take. Now there was nothing to take. The company board, the members Lin Jia had placed, one by one, over 6 years, began asking questions. The answers required resources that no longer existed. Xiaomei's paperwork was ready to file, but the accounts it pointed to were empty of what was supposed to be in them. The brothers' investment scheme required a capital injection that did not arrive. Each problem needed money. Each money problem pointed to another money problem beneath it. Structures built on assumptions collapse the way those structures always collapse, not in one dramatic moment, but in a sequence of increasingly expensive corrections, each one requiring something that has quietly ceased to exist. Mei Lin filed for divorce from Singapore. Her lawyer was efficient. The settlement negotiation took 11 days. Lin Jiahe's lawyer called twice to request a meeting in person. Priya Nair's office declined both times, politely, without explanation. Mei Lin received, in the post, a 4-page letter from Fang Liru. She read the first paragraph. She set it on the kitchen counter of her apartment in Singapore, which had a view of a canal and a small balcony where she had been growing herbs, and she made herself a cup of tea. She did not read the rest of the letter. She did not need to. She already knew what it said, in the same way she already knew everything it was too late for them to change. She did not follow the collapse with any particular attention. She heard about it the way you hear about weather in cities you no longer live in, mentioned, passed through, moved past. Xiaomei's business failed within a year. The brother declared personal bankruptcy 2 years after that. Lin Jia, she learned through a mutual acquaintance who sent her a link to an article without any accompanying message, had relocated to a smaller city and was attempting to restart a smaller version of what he had built, with a new company and a new partner. The article had a photograph. The new partner was young. Mei Lin felt something when she saw the photograph, but she looked at it only once and did not look again, because she was 46 years old and she had learned in her first life that some feelings are not worth the room they take up. She was 46 now. The same age she had been when she died in the rain, going to an interview for a job she was overqualified for, in a city that did not know her name. In this life, at 46, she was sitting on the board of a company she had built from the money her father had left her, in a country her husband's family had never thought to consider, in an apartment where the herbs on the balcony were growing well and no one corrected her soup. Her father's company, the original company, the one he had spent his life building, was intact. She had restored his name to the masthead in the second year after the divorce. She had been the one to make that decision, alone, without consulting anyone, in a boardroom with large windows and good light, and the feeling of making it had been so clean and so simple that she had sat very still for a moment afterward, not wanting to disturb it. She sometimes sat in his old office chair, which she had shipped from the original office because she wanted something of his near her while she worked. She would sit in it and look at the city below the window and think about patience. About the way patience can be a structure built around you by someone who understands that you will wait, that you will believe, that you will give time the benefit of the doubt because you were raised to think that things take time and good things are worth waiting for. About the way that same patience, turned the other direction, becomes something entirely different, not a trap you fall into, but a tool you carry. She thought about her father, who had taken her to meetings when she was 12 and told her to watch how people handled disagreement. She thought about what she had watched, and what she had learned, and how long it had taken her to use it. She did not feel victorious. Victory felt like something you celebrated, and she did not feel like celebrating. She felt the way she imagined her father must have felt when the first contract came in, when the first shipment cleared customs, when the company first became real enough that he could touch it, not triumphant, but settled. Like herself, finally. Like someone who had come a very long way and arrived somewhere worth arriving. Outside the window, the city went on without her. She let it. She had things to do.